The following live broadcast is rated ESV PG. It's been a long time, a lot of shit's happened, and we're ready to spill it. Good evening. It's another open forum here at ESV. So, welcome. Glad to have you here. We're going to talk about different things that have been going on. Labor Day's passed. We're back through that. And a whole bunch of other shit that's going around. Basically, life itself. We're alive. We're happy. We're moving on, okay? That's most importantly, though, anything you want to talk about is going to be part of the show. So, we'll see y'all then. You guys ready to do this? Because I don't even
Ready.
know. See, now you're
So,
better than I am right now because I don't even
Yeah,
know yet.
sure.
All right, let's do it.
Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Together, together, always together.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Liffin here, and welcome to another fun-filled episode of Ear, Shoulder, Voice. Glad to have you here. So, what's been going on? It's our open forum show. You know what that means. Anything you want to talk about, anything you want to discuss, just put it in the chat. We will talk about it. We don't care how deep, depraved, disgusting it is. We're going to talk about it. Or if it's happy and lighthearted, hell, we'll give that a shot too. But we can't just talk about it alone. We can't do that unless we have a panel. But while you're here, and before I bring our panel in, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow to Ear, Shoulder, Voice on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're on all those. And you get on there, you can see when we do all our shows. You can make suggestions, etc. So we'll see y'all. Let's bring in our panel. Our first panelist tonight, of course, is the king himself, Bill. Bill, how's it going?
it's good. It's good
It's
right
good.
now.
I threw you off. You're first again.
Yeah,
Well,
you
you
messed
were
me
ready
up. I
this
was like,
time.
I'm in the middle of a drink there, so yeah.
That's what I look for. I wait till you're just most off your guard, and that's when I'm going to bring you in. You know,
Yeah.
So how has everything been going? See, I'm going to do it to Anthony right now. Look at that. See, there we are. Anyway, so how was your Labor Day? Everything good?
Yeah, other than the getting hit by the car thing, everything was great.
What
And
that's what
then,
you did? Some people you literally just go to the beach and stuff. What made you decide to take that kind of trip?
well, it was just, I happened to be at the
Bored.
gas station and boom.
Well, I'm glad you're still here with us, getting hit by a car. We're glad to have you here. It could be worse, I
Yeah, it was
imagine.
slow motion. She got out of her car and didn't put it in park and didn't turn it off and it just rolled into me, so it was all exciting.
Okay, well that's at least better than the first visual I got, because I know you, Bill. I know you'd tumble over the hood or some shit like that, get up and go, "What the hell?" and just
I
like,
did get up. I was looking for the lady who was driving the car. It was gonna cause problems, but and then it all sunk in on me, kind of. So I quit.
all right. Let's bring our next panelist in, Gabe. What's going on?
How are you?
I'm absolutely, amazingly, fantastic, unbelievably wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm not that, but I'm all right.
I'm not that.
Nobody is that. Nobody is that. Hey, as long as
That's
the word
very, very true.
fantastic is in there, it's not necessarily true. Fantastic derived from fantasy, untrue. So, how was your last couple weeks? We haven't been on in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So,
Yeah, I mean, definitely some ups and downs. So, my birthday just passed, so I
happy
enjoyed that.
birthday.
You were there, so we had a good old time,
You were there.
and and then some bad things, which we'll go over a little
Well,
bit
we'll go.
later.
We'll definitely hit on those too because a lot of people are going through some things right now. It seems like a lot of people all around me are going through some very troubling times for some reason right now. Not even related to everything that's happened the past year and a half. Just things are going wrong. I'm one of them. Let's find out if Anthony's on that same boat. Anthony, how you doing?
Living the dream.
The perfect dream, huh?
Oh yeah.
So we all got shit happening with us. What about with you?
Same shit, different day.
Oh, so you're just living normal. The rest of the world crumbles around you. Good to know. Good to know.
Fuck it, right?
Fuck it is right. So what'd you do for
It's
Labor Day?
another fuck it show.
When was that?
Fuck it.
I don't know. Probably drank.
You don't know, probably drank, then yeah, you probably drank.
I don't know.
I was like, if you don't know, that's probably what happened.
Well, I don't really do anything, but go out and hang out with friends.
So you didn't do anything, didn't go anywhere?
Nowhere.
I just did a
Stayed
last minute
local.
trip over to Chicago. That was about it. Came home just for a couple days. Kind of messed up the whole podcast because we were scheduled to do our episode on Wednesday. And when I scheduled everything, I forgot Labor Day and took the wrong week off for it. Should have been the next one because I was thinking it was earlier. So let's delve into. I had such a list of things to talk about, and nobody's in there. Nobody's chatting right now, so it's just us right now. We got nothing to push off. I got nothing now.
You got
I'm
nothing.
totally blank. So this has been a good show. I appreciate everybody being on here.
Bye.
Want to go grab a bite to eat?
Yeah, I might. I just might want to do that.
We should
So-
talk about it.
Yes, we could. Well, let's go to Gabriel. Gabriel, you said you had some things going on. What's going on?
So on my birthday, or shortly that night, I had a friend who I've worked with for a lot of years who passed at 52.
Sorry to hear.
And it was, really, really tough, because he was such a loved person by everybody at my work. And, we're going to be going through all these things. And so I've been sort of, just really thinking about it for the past couple days. And, what makes me most frustrated, and it's sort of the thing that I wanted to talk about, because there's been other situations like this that me and you, Keith, know about, is that, he died at 52. He worked his whole life for this retirement, and it's always such a shame to me to see people of such high value not be able to get to their end game,
Yeah.
and not be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor,
Hey,
so
Joe, how you doing?
so yeah, as far as 401k, as far as the retirement ages and things like that,
Retirement age keeps going up too.
yeah.
We talked about that a little bit briefly on one of our other shows. And you're right. Where do you get a chance to enjoy the fruits of your labor? And do you think people ever want to? Some people don't like retiring. They feel like they're put out to pasture, and done. And some people look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways, Either, the old adage that as soon as you retire, you die. But, I think I know a lot of people that are working towards that, or towards trying to retire early so that they can get those benefits in life and enjoy those experiences before they don't have the energy anymore,
But it's harder and harder to do. I mean, most of us know you hit about 40, 45, you definitely start to drop off in energy. Everything
tell me
starts. Oh, you started early.
When did that happen?
Guess how old I
It's
am.
like, fuck.
But most people do, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like, 20 years from now when I'm retirement age, and what can you really do anymore?
Well,
Besides travel and be that old person in Florida sitting on the bench talking about those young hoodlums not knowing what it was like back in the day.
they're talking about Social Security running out within the next 20 years before most of us are going to retire.
Yeah.
Anybody out there, just tell me, what do you think of the retirement age? Well, do you think it's good, bad? Do you think the system is messed up or not? Feel free to enter your comments. We'd love to see them. What about you, Bill? You retired yet?
I'm getting there.
You getting this? So
Actually-
what's...
I actually tried to retire when I was 49. And then bad turns of events and monetary loss caused me to have to go back to work. And my retirement lasted for approximately 1.5 years. And that was it.
Do you ever, Bill, you've done stuff independently as well, correct?
Yeah.
Do you feel that independent workers are kind of mistreated when it comes to stuff like that? Because
You
aren't
get-
they the ones that often are harder working than most people?
I used to tell the guys when I had the car lots, the guys that sold cars for me, I said, listen, you're going to make a ton of money. I said, the cars you don't even have to sell the cars. I had Southern cars that I brought up here. I said, you don't even have to sell the cars. You just go out there, put the keys in the ignition, start the car up. The people are going to buy the cars. But these guys are going out and blowing their money. And I said, if this is the only job you got going on right now, you're not getting anything from this at the back end. I said, you need to save your money, put your money away. It's something I always did. Like I said, I had 2 different car lots, had a drop ship business and stuff like that. I put my money away, you know, and had money. And then I made a mistake with somebody and stuff and lost out, you know, a whole bunch of money. But I always try to tell them. I tell my daughter the same thing. She works 60 hours a week. I said, how much money are you putting away? And to my surprise, she's like, Dad, I got $38,000 in the bank. My daughter's only 23.
Oh, so she's on the right path,
Yeah.
at least to get it going. But that it gets really hard to sometimes put it away, especially when you're running your own business, you're an independent contractor, and I think sometimes even harder, you know, than
You have
working
to,
for
you have to
somebody
put
else.
money back into your business, or else you're not going to make money. You know,
That's the
so
thing. Yeah, you can keep trying to put it aside, but you need to keep the business rolling. Al's here. How you doing, Al? He says they just extended out the retirement age another couple years to shorten it up. Plus, COVID will do some work in eradication of older people. Um, on the COVID thing, right there, and I wanted to get into a couple things because in the news people are a little decisive with that going on as well. Uh, it will do some work in eradication of older people. Are you referring to government involvement such as vaccines will do the eradication, or are you referring to the COVID virus itself, Al? Just curious on there. But speaking of that and going to the vaccines and the mandates that just came, there's been a lot of talk with people around there. How do people feel about the companies of 100 more requiring a vaccine mandate?
Anthony?
That's who I was mainly talking to. Smart.
Hold on a second. Let me just.
hold on.
I thought that was gonna.
And he's gone.
No, we still hear him. So Anthony, tell us.
Oh, I disagree with mandates. I do. I don't like them. I think it's too soon. I think we don't have enough reason to mandate the vaccines, especially right now, because they're showing that they don't really stop the spread of COVID.
They're showing
Right.
that they do a lot to hinder the spread, though.
No, because Fauci even went on and said that the viral load is the same in a vaccinated person that of an unvaccinated person. So it does absolutely nothing to stop the spread. It just protects people from going into a hospital. Right?
Okay, but doesn't that work to defeating the virus itself? So if you're in a company, and I'm asking just because I'm curious how other people's actual opinions are in this, if you're mandating that in a factory, which by the way, they're not mandating you must have a vaccine. They're saying if you do not choose to get that, you must get tested,
Well,
which I don't think is a bad option.
my thing though is no one's really in the U.S. explored natural immunity if you've had COVID and recovered, right?
Well,
Because the
those that have
vaccine
tried
is made
natural-
to mimic natural immunity, and
Oh.
it was asked if they've looked into that because other countries are saying if you've had COVID or if you're vaccinated, you're good because you have antibodies. But over here, they're not even talking about that as being an option of you just have to have the vaccine. If you've had COVID and recovered and you have antibodies, that's still not good enough. Even
Now,
though arguably it might be a more stout defense than the vaccine.
I don't know how true it is, but I constantly am hearing people tell me, oh, I've had COVID 2-3 times and never got the shot, prior to the shot even being available. Now, that to me will suggest that natural immunization is not going to work all that well.
No, but at the same token,
If
if
that's
they've had
true.
it 2-3 times, it does the same as the vaccine, preventing them from going to the hospital a second, third time.
But we're also
First.
talking they've had it 2 or 3. This is, again, according to people who bullshit a lot. So don't get me wrong when I say this, that it could be untrue. But they're talking more the same way. Most people who are getting it now who had the vaccine are getting the Delta wave, the Delta variant of it.
Yeah.
As D and then whatever E is going to be, and then the Fauci variant, which we'll have when F comes
I
around.
thought they jumped all the way to Mu or whatever the fuck.
I don't know what they did anymore with that. So I don't think it's bad with a company of that size to be it. Al's talking by the way, the virus itself is killing them, and it seems it is taking them out, especially the elderly are having the bigger effect. Now, they have said, and of course it's studies, and I know, Anthony, your argument's going to be where do you get the facts or anything like that, but that you're like 5 times more likely to die from COVID if you haven't had the vaccine. And I think it's 1 in 4 children are more likely to get it vaccinated versus not, because it's now attacking the children heavily. I don't have.
Well, let me
I got
let
a
me
question.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead,
Bill.
Bill.
Well, okay, so I had the virus twice, and I mean, I was sick. All right, so everything that I read about it is, and especially this affects me in things that I have going on, is so it was caused damage to your lungs and slight damage to your heart. Well, I'm a guy who gets pneumonia twice a year. So they told me, said, a booster comes out, you need to get the booster because winter comes up, you get pneumonia, it's going to get you. And talking to the girls that I know at the hospitals, when you see the reports on television and stuff, they say this many people died from the virus, and it says found that so and so people had it too. People are in the hospital for something else, and the virus is actually adding to their already problems, and that's why they contribute and say, okay, well, the virus caused this person to pass.
Right,
type
because
of
it
thing.
contributes to their current conditions or whatever happens to be
Right.
going on with them.
So
And me having it and stuff, I just wonder, you guys were talking about you had it a couple times, it builds up your immunities, which I understand that. But you would think that everything that goes on, it doesn't, because every virus that there's ever been, just go with the flu. It mutates. So sometimes it mutates and it doesn't go into something worse, but a lot of the times it does.
And that's actually a really good point, and I don't think anybody's put it that way discussing it with me before. So, appreciate that. What were we going to say, Gabe?
So thinking of this from a corporate standpoint, right? You
Okay.
you employ hundreds of thousands or hundreds of employees. Okay. As of right now, we are not back to business as usual.
No.
The majority of Americans are either working from home or doing whatever. Eventually, we're going to need to get back to the offices and things like that because Forbes and all these articles, they're doing a lot of research and figuring out that there's a lot of people fucking off while they're at home and not
Yeah.
doing shit. So eventually, they need to get large swaths of people back together in one building in tight cubicles. So then the question is, if you don't have a mandate for vaccinations or whatever, say you have one person who gets it, which with my company, who's large, we're getting it on, twice, on average twice a week. We're getting these exposure letters. Okay. So they have to follow these CDC protocols, not necessarily a mandate, but definitely as far as the the
Masking, the
the
distancing.
masking, the distancing, the isolation for 10 days, things like that.
Right.
So the question is, how do you get the quickest response to getting everybody back into the office
Yeah.
without having to be financially responsible for people that are spreading the virus?
Brandon says it's not good to mandate, which I believe is true in a sense, and I will get to more on that because he commented again in a second. I want to get to, and partly in defense of what Anthony's saying, and going what Gabriel is saying. The thing is, if you get the vaccine, as people say, then why are you worried? You're protected. If you get sick, you're not going to get that sick, etc. But what you're saying as well, Gabe, is those that aren't are going to lose these employees as well in the middle of it. Okay, the ones who aren't vaccinated, who are going to get sick from it, and it's going to cost the company as well. And this is where my question of the mandate actually comes in. Why is it bad? Especially given the option to test. Why, if you're given the option to test instead once a week, why is the mandate so hard? This is not new. Vaccine mandates have existed forever.
Well, of course, but vaccine mandates have also existed from vaccines that have gone through a lot more thorough testing.
Not when they first started. George Washington started it. There was not thorough testing.
Okay, maybe
Okay.
back that far, right? But most of these vaccines, that you are required for these, we have a lot of data on it, right? And my
But we-
concern with mandate right? If it was shown to stop the spread of COVID, right? Then okay, I can understand potentially, mandating it. But it's been shown that the vaccine does not stop the spread. It does not stop people from going into the hospital. For some reason, we're the only country that our hospitalizations are more than 60% unvaccinated, right? The rest of the world, their statistics of who's in the hospital, it's more 60-40 vaccinated, unvaccinated. So it's about the same,
You-
right? But over here, you hear, 98% of people, 80% of people. So I'm just curious as what number, because everything I hear from everywhere else in the world, it's more 60% number are vaccinated
Well,
in hospitals.
we've
So
talked about it
that's why I
before.
don't understand the point of a mandate, because it's not going to stop you from going to a hospital. It's not going to stop you from spreading it. So why are we still pushing this vaccine?
How will it not stop you from going to a hospital?
Because 64% of countries that have high vaccination rates are still vaccinated in the hospital, double jab vaccinated.
But
Look
if you
at
make
Israel.
sure your
Right.
employees are
Israel
either
has the
vaccinated,
highest vaccination rate.
the difference is if your employee who's vaccinated still may spread it, it's true, but they get sick. They get sick without symptoms. They can possibly lose no work or be back to work in a day or two. Somebody unvaccinated who fully gets it and stuff has to go home, could be hospitalized. They could lose a lot of time from that
Could
employee.
happen if you're vaccinated.
It can, but it's less likely to. I mean,
Much less likely.
it has shown that the vaccines do make it far less likely to show symptoms, and it does reduce the possibility to spread, though it still can spread. Because like any other thing out there, measles, all that we're vaccinated against, many of us are vaccinated against as kids. You can still get it and spread it,
Yeah.
but the vaccine slows that down, which is why you can have your kids go to school together
Yeah, but how much does it slow it down?
tremendously.
Well,
How many measles outbreaks do you have, or chickenpox?
I'm
You know how
not saying
common that
measles
was.
or chickenpox. I'm talking this current one.
But it's the
How
same
much?
process.
But it's not, because it's a completely different vaccine, right? It's a completely different style of vaccine.
But it's also the first wave of vaccines. Measles and flu and everything like that. People have been getting immunities and flu
Forever.
shots forever. This is
Yeah.
the
Well, I understand
introduction.
But we
So-
don't mandate flu shots.
Right, but back in 1912, they also had, or 1910, they also had the same issues where they were rolling out these things. You also had the anti-masks, or you had the side effects and things like that because they had to get the ball rolling on something like this. I mean, where do you? So at that point, if you don't want to push vaccines, okay, do you just say fuck it? Like, I'm not gonna. We're not there yet, so we might as well just throw haphazard. Because nobody's going to pay attention. Nobody's going to wear masks. Nobody's going to be protection.
I mean, we've seen that 100%.
Nobody's going to be washing hands. Everything's just going to go back to what it was, and we just pretend like, well, it's out there. But since the vaccine's not good enough, then fuck it. We're not even going to try.
Well, but you can have the vaccine available to people, but
Right.
I just don't think it should be mandated, right?
Right.
Like,
Well,
I'm all
Alf-
for people getting vaccinated if they want to.
Sure.
Not getting vaccinated if they don't want to. That's their choice.
But now let's.
And when the government gets involved is where I have a problem. If a company decides that they want to enforce a mandate and that's the company's decision on their own without the government saying it has to happen, so be it. Right?
But let's
my
look
issue
at
is
this.
government involvement. That's my issue.
But again,
but
with,
it's still
with
about
the
health
vaccines,
and safety.
when it came to polio, when it came to all this stuff, they actually came directly to your door in your neighborhood, and they would line you up and give you the shot. It's nothing new.
No, but I still don't agree with that. Right?
I know- I understand.
That's my
Sure.
stance, right?
I hear you. Yeah,
I get it's not a new thing. It's not
Yeah.
unheard of. I just don't agree with it.
sure.
I think it should
Well,
have to.
Here's where I think the counter argument to it is as well. Is Gabe made some excellent points. By the way, Al says it's too hard to enforce and it won't happen. And I agree. It's people are looking at this wrong. You're given an option. There's a difference between a full public mandate. First of all, you have to be in a company of more than 100 employees. Second of all, if you don't, you can just get tested. Nurses have to do that. Other professions have it. Schools, you say the mandates are there. Schools do have strict rules sometimes about your child's vaccination before letting them in. Your child must be vaccinated. And that was something originally through government that was fully mandated. And now there are some places that do go against that. But it's not new to this, and they do it for the protection of the kids, for the protection of the other children. You have to do something. People bitch entirely, like with the previous administration, Trump didn't do enough, or he did, and now Biden isn't too much. But what are the choices? If you take away what either one of these people are doing, then they are ignoring the problem, as Gabe says. If you ignore a problem, it's going to get worse. And because we have half the country ignoring this problem, we have for the last year and a half, really, depending on what side they're on and who's in office and all this bullshit reasons, honestly.
Yeah.
Because we have that is why it is so out of control in this country and not others. At least that's my personal opinion on it.
Right.
It's not about them mandating. There's nothing wrong with a mandate they're doing. And again, personal opinion, if you're giving an option to do something different.
Yeah, and that's
And it's
fine. right?
care for your neighbor.
I appreciate the option of you're not losing your job. It's not an ultimatum,
Right.
right? But, with the whole vaccine passports and places, right? I don't agree with any of that. You have to have a vaccine card to do anything, to go to restaurants, to go anywhere, and it's mandatory. Right?
Why
Because-
do you disagree with that, though? What is...
He doesn't
I
want the
get...
government involved in it. I understand what he's saying, kind of.
I understand the government,
the
but if the
government.
company is choosing to do it,
But a lot of the places that are doing it, it's because the government is saying you have to do it, right?
But as far as I'm aware,
there's
like-
more places that are doing it than fighting back and saying, "Nah, fuck it."
I thought most of the airlines and stuff are based on suggestions from the CDC or guidelines, not government mandated. They're choosing to follow these
Well,
patterns.
I'm talking like New York,
Also,
right?
Oh.
Where you can't go anywhere unless you have the vaccine card.
so real question, okay? As far as all these multi-billion-dollar companies, do you think that they do not have the ear of politicians? Do you think that they are surprised by this mandate, or do you think that maybe it's their decision in order to do it pushed onto politics so that politicians can be considered the bad guys, so that the billionaire companies can say, well, I don't know what to do. We got this mandate. We got to do it.
Sure, but at the same time, I fuck those people.
Right.
They're spineless bitches.
Right.
Right? Like, if you're gonna hide behind the government to do what you want you to, what you
Welcome
want
to big
do,
corporations.
But that's big
no,
corporate.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it.
You know. So I don't think that it's a surprise to any of them, like the big
No.
companies. I think that they are all having that conversation.
I think they need the help too, in a sense. Even though I agree with you, fuck those pussy bitches. I agree with that, or whatever bitches you called them. I do agree with that. There's a difference in an employee going to a place, and we as Americans tend to boycott companies we don't like. So they're not going to work, or they're going to quit. And if the employer has a reason, hey, the government said so, they're more likely to keep the employees who are not going to blame the company and not walk out because it's government mandated. And then they can bitch to the higher ups and everything, just like bars did in one of our bars. According to our governor, you have to do this, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Because they relinquish responsibility to the government, saying, hey, we don't want to do it. We're the good guys, especially bars. We're on your side. But
Yeah,
we
but you
still
have
want
to
you as
do
a
it.
patron. We have to follow their rules.
Yeah.
But there's so many bars out there right now that aren't following the rules.
That is also true. I mean,
Sure.
I still think bars are like the number one influence we've had on the spread of everything. Bars and clubs.
And it'll be like that for all time,
It is. That's how. The basic flu and stuff like that spreads through bars like crazy.
It's just when you're on radar, when you're that large of an entity, and you have that many people that could destroy you through lawsuits and things like that,
Good point, Al. I'm going to get to that in a second. Go ahead.
then it's going to be, you have to have more protections.
I agree. Brandon says it's not good to mandate anything, especially right now. He says he's got his shops, but he completely understands the point of view that those don't want it forced on them. And I agree. Nobody wants it forced. The thing, people hate the idea of your standard flu shot. People are scared. People thought the same thing to think about COVID. There are groups of people that think that about the regular flu shot. It's a controlling thing. It's a government thing. It's all like so. I agree that it scares them. It shouldn't be forced upon you. But I don't think guidelines, even it's called a mandate, but it is technically a guideline because you have a choice, and ultimately you have a choice to go somewhere else, not even work for that company if you don't want to. A mandate to me is almost it would have to be every person in the United States, and you must get the shot if you want to do anything.
Martial law.
Right. Plus,
Yeah.
you don't have to get the shot. You can just test weekly.
And I think that's
yeah,
a
but who
great
pays
option.
for that?
You can test right now for free still almost everywhere.
For now. For now, you can. It's
So
like-
live in the
already
now.
changing.
Don't spend your time worrying about the future. Like if you live in the now, maybe there won't be that kind of future.
But the
Yeah, but
vaccine
we've been
thing is
living in
gonna
the
be
now with
painful,
this. The 14-day lockdown for the past 18 months.
Yeah, we have because people
CBS
don't pay
just thinks that
attention.
You got to pay for it. So
And I do believe that if it came down to the corporation and they had to charge for it, I do believe the business would be responsible for paying for that fee to get tested. You know, I do think that would be part of it. I could be wrong on that, but I think they would accept that as their responsibility. All right, and we're going to get to Al. First, Brandon says also options are really good, which I believe they are. We're going to go to Al right now because he brought up some good points here. He said mandate a virus that 97.5% of people that get it don't die of it. The AIDS virus is still more lethal. No mandates on that. AIDS virus is completely spread, pretty much through blood contact, often through sexual intercourse. That's done. That's a little different way of spreading it. And of course, AIDS is far more lethal, but you don't pretty much go to a bar and the guy at the table next to you has AIDS. That's 80s thinking you're going to catch it.
Right. AIDS is not an airborne pathogen. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I don't think that's a really fair thing because, you could apply that to anything, whether it be cancer or any disease out there, really. But you did bring up a good point on this one. You said, so a business with less than 100 people don't need to be mandated. Why are those 100 people immune to the virus? It's a complete bullshit move. Everyone can get it, 100 less or more.
Right.
That I completely agree with. But I think the reason behind it was a step to help the small business in a sense. To help the small restaurants, the small the bars. Not that they were thinking they were going to help it, but if we push it on corporations first, maybe it'll filter down.
And they have more money to tear through before
Yeah.
they go under for finding employment. Because right, you are going to have those people that just say fuck it and quit. That's why we have such a shortage right now because it is so divided when it comes to everybody making that decision or not.
I want to go back here, and this is one of the things that fascinates me. I want to go back to Al's comment. Just one of the things he said with the mandated virus that 97.5% of people that get it don't die. You remember this argument used to be 0.01% don't die, and 0.1% don't die, and less than 1% don't die, and less than 2% don't die. Now we're at 2.5%. How far does it go till you realize that our numbers, first of all, they may be skewed, but they're wrong. More people are dying than you're thinking they are. The biggest argument was like, it's got a 0.99998% survival rate, better than the flu that has this. Well, now it's not better than the common flu.
Yeah.
and back to the hospital thing, they don't know how many people when this first came out, how many people who died in the hospital who were in there for a different thing actually died
Yeah.
from the virus as a add-on situation to whatever they already had going on.
See, people are always bitching like that. But the biggest one you hear is we all have a friend who got in a biking accident, or a friend of a friend, and they saw the death certificate and he died of COVID. Like I don't know how many people have heard that story. I've heard several people tell me that exact same story.
The motorbike one?
Yeah.
My
Like
dad
that-
told me that.
Okay, So there you go.
So holy shit.
But at the same time, right?
Holy
That is, it's a
No,
bullshit
let's
fucking thing.
hold on
But
real
it's
quick.
Semi-validated
Let's
when you have people from the health department saying that as long as people have tested positive for COVID at the time of death, it's counted as a COVID death.
let's
Hold on.
recognize that. Let's
Right?
recognize
Yes.
that. Let's
agree.
recognize that.
Go Gabe. Go Gabe.
My father told me that story. That is the first time I have ever heard it from anybody else. It is that exact fucking story.
Yep.
The motorcycle, COVID, died. Understand the gravity of that. Holy shit.
I've heard it from a couple different people. I have, and it's the same damn story. Because one person said it, and nobody ever says my friend's friend of a friend. It's always their friend.
I know a
They're-
guy that knows somebody.
It's always their buddy.
And I
Oh
always
my
like, so
God.
your friend of a friend, you went and saw, you went and read up on his death certificate and everything and found
Right.
everything on there. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, I mean, I saw the death certificate for my immediate family. I've not gone like even some of my best friends or good friends who passed away go, hey, can I just see his death certificate? I want to read through it. It's not something we really do.
No.
So I don't buy that fact. But by the same token, where people bitch that people are listed as dead by COVID, it goes the other way too, as Gabe was just saying, and Bill was saying too at the hospitals. How many people died from COVID before it was recorded, and how many people does that happen that it's not recorded? And I do believe that's going to balance those two things out pretty much, and you're still left with the same rates. Al's back. Al says my employer employs 10,000 plus people, but I work in a building with only 40 people. So where is the line drawn? And I don't really know the specifics as far as something like that goes, but I believe because the
that's-
company
that is a good
employs
question.
10,000, I think it would still be required, judging by what was said. But I haven't seen anything on paper about
Well,
it
and they
right
still
now.
have to roll it out, and the Department of Labor has to look at the feasibility and the legalities behind it. Because if you're mandating if you are mandating your employee to take something, is the company expected to take responsibility for any adverse reactions?
Yes,
right?
that's part- that's part of the
it's-
mandate, yeah.
They're talking about it, and there's still a long time before it's going to roll out because there is a lot of legalities that have to be looked at, right?
Absolutely.
Because although the Pfizer vaccine has FDA approval, that vaccine has not been made yet. You cannot get that FDA approved vaccine yet, right? It's the same vaccine, but you cannot go and get the Comirnaty FDA approved.
Horrible
vaccine.
name, by the way.
Dude,
Horrible,
yeah.
horrible name. Oh my god.
You know, so there's that too.
Comirnaty.
Because right now, the only vaccines that are available are not FDA approved. So that brings in, and not that matters, but legally,
To some people
if
it
you're-
does.
But if you're forcing someone to take a drug that is not approved, that also has more red tape that has to be kind of
Sure.
gone through for mandating something.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree,
So I
but
don't
I
think it's
think-
going to happen anytime soon. I think it's talked about it, and people are going to go crazy, and they're going to have discussions like we're doing. But we're probably not going to see anything roll out for a few weeks.
And I think that's part of the reason for the option being in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Is because there's too much you have to go through to try to mandate something not fully approved
Yeah.
on there. Another thing Al says, though, so if the government bans smoking because it kills so many people in the U.S. every day, will you oblige to it? Fuck yes, I will.
I'm going to be angry for about 3 weeks.
Yeah. But you know
Please,
what?
please
Almost
get it
2
off
months.
of every corner.
I'm gonna quarantine myself for everyone else's safety, and
Yeah.
then I'll be all right.
Almost 2 months I quit. If they were not available, and I was pissed off and I was a little moody throughout it, if they were not available to go buy, I would be fine. I would get through
Yeah.
it at that point.
Yeah, if you can
fact
give me
is-
2 weeks off, right when you do that,
Yeah,
then I accept.
I agree.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this, Bill? You've been a little bit quiet.
I've been listening. So I got a general question. All right.
Go ahead.
This is for all three of you and anyone
Sure.
else listening. All right. So let's just say you guys got the vaccine. All right. And let's say that you live with someone who is not a significant other, who is not related to you, just a roommate,
Hmm.
and just someone you know.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
They refuse
Wife.
to get the vaccine. All right? So they endanger you every day that they go out, do whatever they want. They don't bathe. They don't wash their hands. You know they don't wash their hands because the bar soap's never wet. Right? What do you think about that? I mean, do you keep your roommate? Do you throw your roommate out? What do you do? I mean, what do you guys think?
I don't think they're endangering me. Right? So I find that viewpoint a little interesting because, once again, the vaccine is to keep my symptoms down and keep me from going to the hospital. So if I am vaccinated and they choose not to, they're not really endangering me by that choice. If anything, they're endangering themselves. Because if they get it, or if I have it and I'm asymptomatic and I spread it to somebody, that's on them. Right?
Right.
So, like, I feel like if I'm vaccinated and I'm around people that aren't vaccinated, I'm good. Right?
Yeah, I'm sort of in that. I mean, not with a dirty person or anything like that, but I'm in that
If
situation.
they're dirty, we're not going to be roommates because they don't
Right,
eat.
right.
Right.
I'm in that situation where I'm in contact with people that are not vaccinated, stuff like that. But I can't do anything about it, and you have to be careful with that because when you start getting into the reality of, hey, these are actual relationships that I have to manage instead of blankets of fucking these millions of people do this shit. When you actually have to talk to them face to face, your situation kind of changes, So, but I mean, if it was just me and that person, yeah. If I had the vaccine, I wouldn't be worried about myself. I'd be.
I
worried
think
about
there's a
that
little
person.
bit of difference too with how many people you have over when they're living with you. If you're kind of the person that maybe has kids or has lots of company coming over and stuff,
Right.
that's going to affect you differently too. And on the same token, I don't think there's anything wrong personally with saying, "Hey, you want to come to my party at my house? You need to be vaccinated, or you got
And
to show me a
and
test."
please
you
take a
know?
bath. Yeah, take a bath.
Yeah, and take a bath,
First and
please.
foremost,
Like
take a bath and
immediately.
wash your
Actually, the
fucking
bath
hands.
is number one. Yes.
Right. Let's do that.
We'll spray you down.
Here's some Old Spice, and
So
Yeah.
going back to what you guys just said,
Go
so
ahead.
you're vaccinated, but then you find out that the vaccine doesn't keep you from getting it again. All right? And I understand Anthony was saying, I feel like I've taken care of myself because I was vaccinated and everything like that. But if it doesn't keep you from getting it again, and you have to think about this where I think about this from my age at 58 years old
yeah.
and what goes on with you in life and stuff like that. And you have someone coming around at you who refuses to get vaccinated, who carried it, and supposedly is over it, even though they didn't go get tested. They just stayed in the house for 10 days. How do you feel about that?
Well, the ironic thing is, right, that none of us, everything we've been fed everything under the sun, as far as research, one way or the other, and the only way that we will really know is if we experience things firsthand. Even if we're taking the vaccine, there's definitely all the science and all that stuff, but is that necessarily going to work for me? It's going to work for millions of other people, but is that going to work for me? Same thing with not taking the vaccine. When that person gets sick, that person might not handle shit. That nothing may happen to them. It might skip them entirely and go.
Right.
So there is no right answer because nobody knows for sure. It's almost like faith at this point.
There is,
No, I was
but
just asking you guys' opinion
I'm-
on it. I mean, there is no right answer, just like you said.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing you can do. There's so many people out there who have no symptoms, but
That's
they're carrying it.
I've said from the beginning,
spreading.
mostly of the virus since it started, one of the biggest things, even when we were talking about closures and everything, that my biggest fear is spreading it to others, not getting it. Even before I was vaccinated or anything like that, my fear was taking it to my work and spreading it.
Right.
And knowing that there are people who are vaccinated, allowing others to come in their house, taking the irresponsible move of going from their house, even though they're vaccinated, and taking it into a busier public place because they're living with somebody who could easily spread it, is an issue people should sometimes have to look at. And it's something that I think is important to see as well, because the spread of it is the fear more than the person getting it. And a lot of people gloss over that fact. They're like, if you're vaccinated, who cares if you get it? Anthony attests himself, you can still get it. Well, that's the fear of spreading it and stopping it. If you were like to say I was around it and everybody's going to voluntarily just stay at home and do nothing, well, then so be it. You're good.
So the
I'm going to get to Al in a minute as well. Go ahead.
the difference of opinion I have with you on that is, and I'm not saying you're wrong, because your thoughts are just as valid as mine, right? But we have a different mindset with the whole spreading it, right? Okay, I opened up my window. You don't have to rev your engine that loud. So you're afraid of spreading it to people who are out and about, right? Because you're gonna feel bad. That's where me being kind of an asshole, I've not really concerned too much about that, because everyone knows the risk of going out, right? So if you're one of those people who is deathly afraid of getting it and doesn't want, then stay home, right? We're all adults for the most part that can risk assess for ourselves, right? Because the chances of you getting into a car accident is not a small chance, but yet we all drive cars every day. The chance of, a lot of things happening, there is a chance.
Well, there's okay, but hold on a
Right.
second.
So,
Going
like-
with that analogy, I want to back up a little on that. Bill just got hit by a car. Does that mean he's going to go into a crowded place and suddenly people are going to leave that place hit by a car? There's a difference in spreading a virus and what you take your chance on doing.
Well, but there's
Okay.
chances for everything, though, Keith. That's my point. There is a chance that you are going to get it.
But
and
you
there's
are
a chance you're not going to
intentionally inserting yourself into that situation. Okay,
You
getting hit
intentionally
by a car is a
yourself in
chance that
situations
affects me.
everywhere.
But or in a sense, that chance that Bill took is a chance that affected him getting hit by a car.
Exactly.
But
And
like
when
I
you
said,
leave
when
your
he
house,
goes to
you
the
are
next
taking the
place-
chance of getting COVID.
But
Everyone
if
is
he
taking
knew,
that chance.
theoretically, even though this can't happen, if he knew that if he went to a public place, everybody around him or half the people would end up getting hit by a car, he's now taking a responsibility. Same with COVID. You take the chance of getting it, but if you consciously know you're going into a public place after having it, it's no longer a chance, it's you spreading. And
After you've had it and recovered,
Right.
or after you actively have it. If
So
you actively are sick and going out, you're a sick fuck.
Exactly. So yeah,
agreed, that's the point.
to
But
defend-
people
If
are
you
like
know
that.
you have it,
Right.
And those people are,
yeah,
fucking
those are the most horrible
ridiculous.
people. Yeah, sure.
right? But
Yeah.
You
at
have
the
so many
same-
people who they went and got the vaccination, and then all of a sudden they thought, okay,
Well.
I don't
We're losing you a bit,
have
Bill.
to wear them out of.
Can you say that one more time when you cut off on us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
now.
It just like so many people got vaccinated, and then they just went into, okay, well, I got vaccinated, I don't have to wear a mask anymore, I don't need to wash my hands anymore, I don't need any sanitizer, I don't have to worry about who I'm walking in grabbing a door behind, or if I'm standing inside a gas station waiting to pay for my gas and there's 6 people in there coughing their fucking brains out. You still
because
need
that
to
was
be
the guidance at the point, right?
Okay.
If you got
But
vaccinated,
I
you're
still
good.
think I still think that you need to be responsible for yourself so that you're responsible for others.
I'm going to hit this comment because Al disagrees with that. He disagrees. Says you make the choice driving a car, you know the danger. Okay, this is my point on the whole thing. You're right. When you drive a car, you know the danger with yourself. When you are drunk and get behind the wheel of that car, you are now inserting yourself to something that will affect the lives of others around you, which is why if you get into an accident or you hit another person, you are responsible because you made the bad decision to go out on that. And that's my point with the car analogy on that.
right.
Yes, getting into a car, you get hit, you get into an accident. Now, if you're hit by a drunk driver, that fault does go to the drunk driver.
Of course.
They went out and caused that problem to you, who
Right.
otherwise would not have had
If
this.
Bill goes flying into your windshield and then causes you to crash, then Bill's going to feel bad.
Bill's our little
Everyone's beating
ragdoll
me
right
up.
now.
Everyone's beating me up. Yeah.
But to go, But to go on to your point, Bill, yeah, it's so I forgot. Never mind.
Okay. His argument
I had
that
a
is you're
point.
using a variable on there, you can get an accident without drinking. Right, but that is what affects you. But if
Right.
you are drinking, and to the analogy, if you're around people who are not vaccinated, or you get the virus and you go out,
Right,
that's
but-
where it becomes your responsibility. Not just going out
But
and
it
driving.
it also
that's-
implies that we were somehow some sort of carrying utopia before COVID hit, and
Yeah.
to his point, that's exactly what's going to happen. Everybody's going to go back to not cleaning and not doing that shit and going into work when they got a cough just because they got to pay the bills. So because they will
You don't
not,
think we're going to learn? You don't think that
No.
a good majority is going to learn? Not everybody, because
No.
I've already seen
Uh-uh.
it. But I know people that are actually far more conscious now than they ever were before because of it. I know several that aren't.
we're a bunch of frogs in the pot.
We are, which is very true. Which is very true. But that is my point.
My only point of disagreeing with you was you're saying if you give it to not knowing you have COVID, right? If you legitimately don't know, how are you supposed to be held accountable?
No, I
If
agree
you
with that.
know, then if you know you have COVID and you're going out, that's like
Then you're a
drinking and
monster.
getting into an accident.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
but the mandates,
don't know-
going back, the mandates are because of the monsters you speak of. They're not because
have
of the
to think
people that
about-
don't know.
But
You have to
but
think
the
about
mandates-
probability and possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people that even during COVID, when it was hard, just, they were sick, they weren't feeling well, they didn't care, they went out. They didn't care, they went to other people's houses. They could have easily had it, and some did easily spread it, hence why we had all these events that caused everybody to get it in certain places, because those quote-unquote monsters didn't care, and they knew better. And as far as I'm concerned, you have the regular fucking flu, you should not be out infecting other people.
No. But getting a vaccine isn't going to change those people going out if they're feeling sick.
It makes it less likely to
Makes
spread.
what less
Probability, possibility.
Yes. It makes it, first of all, makes it less
how
likely
does
to
it
spread.
not make it? How does it make it less likely to spread? If
Well,
you're
first of all, you're
vaccinated,
over
you
it
have
sooner.
the same viral load as someone who's unvaccinated. So
Because you defeat it quicker.
Yeah, and
You are.
I mean, you definitely have less of a chance of actually contracting it. There's definitely less chance. When you
Yes.
do have it, symptomatically, you could be asymptomatic. You could still have all of that in your mouth and be spreading it. But that's only if you get it. So
And
it
it
definitely.
also, if you're not vaccinated and your body doesn't know how to fight it, you hang on to that virus and are able to spread it for a longer period of time. And if you are, your body, just like a 24-hour cold versus the flu, if your body fights it off quick enough, the odds of spreading it are definitely taken down, because by the time, with most flus, by the time you have symptoms, the spread is over. With COVID, it works a little differently. So if you can defeat it quicker, then you're going to hence spread it less. When you are contagious with that, the spread is probably 100% equal. But the fact is, you're not contagious as long.
But where are you getting that fact from? I'm just curious.
That's general science of how vaccines work.
But-
That's not even
But
that's
where
not
are you
even
getting
related
the
to
science for
COVID.
this particular vaccine? Because this isn't the same as any other vaccine.
It
That is
isn't
my,
the
and
s-
that's a legitimate question.
No, it is a legitimate question, but the vaccine still works in the same way, though it's a different process of doing it. It still teaches your body to fight off the foreign object that enters it, the
Yes.
vaccine or the virus.
Yes.
So, in theory, yes, there could be a problem with the vaccine. Yes, it could not work, but speaking from the scientific view, that is why the spread is less if you're vaccinated. Could that be false? Yes. But as of right now, it is seen to have kind of the same effects as an ordinary flu, the ordinary flu. You're less likely to spread it if you're sick for less time. And I think that's where it comes from. And there's also the difference: if you're not asymptomatic, you're not coughing on everybody. You're
Yeah,
not
but
sneezing.
that's-
You're
that's
not
the same. If you're
expelling that.
asymptomatic and unvaccinated, you're still not spreading it the same way. To the
Well,
same
if you're
degree.
asymptomatic, but you will not have as many problems with it if you are vaccinated. This is I actually, believe it or not, still don't agree with the mandate on the vaccines. Like I don't think it should be done. But there is logic behind it that people who are even against it fail to see.
So let me ask you this: so if you didn't do mandates, okay, and instead you left,
Exactly, I agree. Al.
if you put harsh punishments on those monsters, on those people that snuck out during their quarantines, that knowingly exposed themselves to other people, would that be enough?
Well, my concern, right, and I think Al had commented something. Where do you draw the line on government involvement for something
Sure.
like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is the metric that is requiring the government to get involved? The fact
You
that people
don't.
are dying, the number of people that have died, what is the metric that is being used to warrant government involvement for
I'm
this?
gonna hate what I'm
So
about to
if there wasn't government involvement with this right now,
I wouldn't give a fuck.
do you? Right, I understand that, but do you think that you would have enough knowledge of this virus that's going around right now?
I
Good point.
honestly believe if the media didn't cover it as heavy as they do, most of us wouldn't even know this thing was here.
See, the CDC is part of the government. That's how we find out stuff. It's
I get
different.
that.
I mean, it's weird. You had the Ebola virus that it morphed into fucking 6 different things after it happened. Even though they got the cure for the Ebola, it morphed into different and transed out everywhere, and they had to keep coming up with a little bit different vaccines for those people over there on the other side of the world to keep them alive. But the government needs to be involved to a point.
Well, they need
I'm
to be
on both
involved,
your
but
sides.
mandating is the issue I have, right? I'm fine with them being involved.
Well,
But
right?
everything
I get
is mandated already. There are so many things that, because of government, is mandated for the safety of. Don't
But
make
that's
me stick
my-
up for government, because I fucking hate government.
My question is, what is the metric that they are using to justify it? Right?
The same
Productivity.
metric they have to be 21 years old to drink. It's the same
Productivity,
metric when
man.
you're 16 to drive.
Productivity and finance. That's what they're.
Yeah.
That's what I
what is the
think
actual
is
government mandate right now
Well-
on this virus? What is it?
productivity and
There-
finance.
Yeah,
No,
we're
I'm
literally
asking
having
you.
this argument, and go ahead and answer Bill's question.
What?
What is the government mandate on this virus right now? What is it?
The vaccines. They're trying to mandate everyone get a vaccine if
But
you
they,
have
but
more
they
than
haven't
100.
yet. They
But
haven't
They're
trying
yet.
to.
having
You
it,
shouldn't
but they're
be-
talking about it, right?
Right,
And
but you shouldn't be upset about it till it happened. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
right
this-
here in Oakland County, Wayne County, they just mandated for the kids to go to school, they got to wear a mask. Do you know that I went to the high school football game? All right, Hazel Park over here the other night, looking up there, and in that crowd on both sides, maybe 10% of the people were wearing masks. But you know what? All the football players on the field were wearing masks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and that's
It's school, and schools is that's part of a government mandate because that's school. I know it's supposed to be
90%
separated.
of the educational
everything,
institution is vaccinated right now. 90% of the educational institution is vaccinated. Teachers and all that. And because of mandates, they're not mandates yet. They're policies and guidelines that people are choosing to follow as mandates,
yes.
but they are not yet mandated. And we get into these fights. I mean, people said the minute Biden got into office, within a month, everybody was going to be forced to have their vaccine, blah, 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 and they worried and they got scared. And you know what Bill says is right. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, no, but so you wait until it happens to then do something about it and then talk about it?
No,
Like,
you wait to see if shit works. You wait to see where it's going to go instead of constantly arguing it and being so defiant. Not you personally,
No,
but
I-
people being so defiant that we have to do more against it. Like,
Well-
your main excuse is because of government involvement, which,
well, yeah, 'cause
granted,
look
if
at
you
Australia
dislike
right now.
government is fair, but
Look
that's
at
your main
Australia.
excuse.
Look at New Zealand.
Yeah. But Australia, you can't leave your house.
Yeah.
But we
Right?
haven't
Like-
gotten there yet. And we wouldn't have to if people simply didn't take it, because what
But
Bill said,
that's why people
it is
are
a
afraid.
guideline and a suggestion. Because we are not following guidelines and suggestions is why mandates are being talked about. But because government has given us those guidelines and suggestions, people are not doing it, thus the requirement eventually to push further and harder for a mandate.
I understand that, right?
Just because they suggest it doesn't make it wrong, even though government sucks and is wrong a lot.
No, and I'm not mad that they're suggesting shit, right? I just, when they're talking about making things mandatory, is where I have a problem, right? Yes, make the suggestion, plead your case, right? And do it in a way that everyone understands, right? But a lot of this shit, when you have the government so fucked up like ours right now, where half of the government is saying, this is great, and the other half is saying, this is horrible. And then they flip-flop on it because we've got different people in power, right?
Sometimes because we got new
who in the
information.
government do we trust?
Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit on the political side here for sure, because the flip flop is necessary in this case, because you had a previous administration that would not admit they were wrong when new facts came to light. So there was flip flopping going around all the time. But I'm sorry, the previous president would not admit he was wrong from what he said early on, and always tried to cover it up. So he never flip flopped, even though the science did. Even though what they knew about it changed, he never flip-flopped. So yes, when a new administration came in, right or wrong, and they listened to the science for a change, it's not flip-flopping, it's listening to the
Well,
science.
no, the flip-flopping I'm referring to is with the vaccine. Right? Because when we had the previous administration, just about everyone in this administration said, if he tells me to take it, I'm not taking it.
Oh, I agree with that part of the flip-flop.
And then nothing changed with any of the vaccines, but now that they're in power, everyone needs to get it. It's great.
But it
So-
wasn't people, it was heads in government. It was governors, it was senators saying that it was agreeing. A lot of people, in fairness, on the left side when Trump was in office didn't care. Just if he said take it, they were still going to take it. Just like you have the people on the
Yeah,
right
but
that
you
were taking
have-
the vaccine even though it was a no. But not the people in power.
You had the top people saying this, right? And
right.
And
I'm going to
so,
get to Al again.
And now they're concerned about vaccine hesitancy, and they're like, "Well, why? I don't know why everyone's hesitant about it." And it's like when they were first being talked about, all of you guys were showing that you were hesitant. Nothing's changed about it, and now.
But you know what the killer is? It's the same. We often do it for the same reasons. Well, I admit when it came out in November with I did not want to take it. Because I felt it was rushed as a political move. I did. I felt it was being rushed as a political move. And now we have time. And that's why I was fine with eventually getting mine, because I'm like, time has shown that there's something going on. And now the argument I'm getting from the other side is, oh, it's not tested. It's not. How long, where is the line to say it's been tested long enough? I mean, you're not going to get 20 years of results until 20 years passes.
And that's their point, right? With a lot of the long-term concerns, you're not going to get those results for a long time.
But you'll die sooner
But
or cause death. This is, I'm saying, where a lot of people's logic is.
well, yeah, but you can't guarantee that you're going to cause death by not getting this vaccine, right? By
I
saying
can.
if you don't get it, you're going to kill somebody. That is kind of furthering a divide, because you can't prove that by getting a vaccine you're saving somebody's life, because
I
you
do
can
believe-
just as easily spread it.
I do believe personally that I am responsible for some of the deaths out there. Literally for working in the barn, working with the crowds and everything like that. I am not directly responsible, but I contributed to the spread of this virus. I took the job. I did what I had to do. And yes, I blame myself for some of the deaths out there. Not all of them, but it's the butterfly effect.
And even if you try to do the right thing, then you have the bar owners who don't do the right thing, and then they contribute to it too.
Exactly. Going to Al, he's going to throw a red hot potato here. It's a proven fact that the vast majority of the black community are not being vaxxed, and that's where the problem lies, and the media won't cover this. I hate some of these arguments against the media because I watch that on the media. I've seen that story. Okay? I've seen them saying that. But at the same time, you're right. But why do we have to push to a different problem? If we take care of ourselves and stop blaming everybody else or different communities and stuff like that, as a whole, the people on this panel, I think, do take care of themselves. I do think they try not to spread. They're good about that. But why do we constantly have our excuse because the problem lies elsewhere?
Yeah, that's everybody pushing the buck, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just taking the common answer, because it is true. I mean, I've spoken with plenty of people when I'm going in houses and installs in the black community, as far as Detroit and Warren and all that stuff. And there is, there's just as much distrust when it comes to the black community. and government and
Yes.
them telling you what to do. Of course, with merit versus your tried and true Republicans and stuff like that. It's all the same, distrust, but from different angles. So, yeah, it's a shame that we can't get together on that level and have the real conversation and sit down and go, okay, so what is the absolute fact? What is this and this and this and this? Is this cool with you? Do you understand that this is what happens? These are your chances. These are your odds. This is not bullshit. This is bullshit.
Well, and we don't have that right now.
Right.
Right? Like, and I feel like if they really wanted to fight vaccine hesitancy, fucking educate people on these vaccines instead of just saying they're safe.
But that's what hurt
go
everybody,
into
just
it
like
and
you.
Say these are the numbers. This is the study that was done, and talk about it more than just saying the vaccines work. End of story.
But every time somebody releases numbers, it doesn't matter if it's the CDC themselves or some Joe Blow doctor out of Houston that does abortions in the alley. They say these numbers are skewed. They're all released by a certain side of government. That's why you're seeing them. They don't believe them.
Well, and another issue I have with it.
They tried that.
To that, right? Because when you you've got science, right? And science can be fucking proven fact or not, right? And most of the arguments I've seen about these doctors and these people who are speaking up against the vaccine and are saying that there are bad things that come from the vaccine, their argument against those people is just they're crackpots, don't listen to them. And there's no honest discussion about the science. It's just don't
Well,
listen
that's
to
what
that
I'm
guy.
saying.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
No matter who you-
So
that's why I
we
said
need
whether
to
it's the
see an
CDC
honest
themselves.
conversation between somebody who's pro-vaccine in the medical field and somebody who is against the vaccine in the medical field. An honest conversation and with facts and with all of this, right? To see both sides of it. This study, that study, instead of just
But this is the problem, and I'm sorry, I'm going to stand up for them. That's what the CDC tries to do. But your government is split and constantly telling you they're wrong, they're lying, they're doing, and the people on the other side are believing whatever your wing of the media is.
But I've yet to see the CDC have a conversation about addressing the concerns, right? Because I saw there was a study that came out saying that the vaccine was inadvertently causing spike proteins to build up in reproductive organs in people. And it was causing a negative effect, right? There was a study done in Japan. Right?
So here's my... Okay,
And-
hold on.
And the response to people to argue that is, well, that's not true.
Out of your own mouth, we don't know the long-term effects of this. There's no way to know it. You say that, but yet they can tell you now, hey, there's a negative thing 20 years in the future from this, or
It's
long-term
not 20
effects,
years
and
in
we
the
believe
future.
that no problem.
This is currently happening. The study was done saying currently happening.
They said there
right?
is some build-up of the protein. I know exactly what you're
Yes,
talking about.
right? But that is being talked about as don't worry about that. They're crazy,
Exactly.
right?
But
And-
that's what people are doing when they say there's no long-term effects. You're doing the exact same thing in the positive. They give you a positive, we have no proof. If they give you a negative, it must be true. That's our problem. Negatives must be
So-
true, positives are false.
But also look at things like Viagra, for instance, right?
Yes.
Look at all of the side effects labels and announcements that all of these drug companies have to do at the end of these commercials through
course.
the last 2 minutes of them, because of the small chances that certain people are going to react to certain things. So it's what's happening in those cases is those, and again, I don't know how significant that is. If they found it, then that's definitely a side effect. But then you have to ask the question, how many people? So
Well, of
my
course.
question to you would, do you know how many people that's
I
affected?
don't. I didn't look too much
Right.
into it, right?
Right. So with and the same thing as far as with the heart palpitations, those types of side effects, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to affect it. The problem is that because everything is getting blown out of proportion, everything is
Yes.
getting blown out of proportion,
Because we have access.
that it blows up like that, and it turns into this white noise that everyone goes, "Oh shit,
This
bad
is-
things. We can't do that because it's bad." And then that just convinces somebody that, well, that's enough for me not to make that choice. So you have it both ways,
Well,
with
a
either
point.
vax or not
And
vax.
so with that, right, there are side effects with everything. But when I'm driving in my car to work and I hear, "Oh, you should go get your vaccine," side effects include winning money and a trip to Disney.
Exactly.
And that,
You're
that
right.
fucking pisses
Oh
me
yeah,
off.
I
hate that
agree
commercial.
100%.
I hate that
Fuck
commercial.
that.
Yeah.
Just because you're
You've all
for
heard
something
that
doesn't
commercial.
mean they're doing
I
the
hate
right
that.
way.
I
What
hate
the
it.
fuck? No, there are serious side effects. Why are they playing
Yeah.
it off like it's, oh, you can win a trip to Disney
But
if you get the
honestly,
vaccine. That's the side
Besides
effect.
having no
same-
tact,
Yeah.
yeah.
But think about the commercials for the medications out there. Think about the disclaimer in words versus what they're showing you
Sure.
on there. Okay, it's kind of the same thing. I agree with you because that was stupid shit. The whole lottery for vaccinated
Oh,
people, the whole one.
Yeah.
That was stupid as all hell. I
And if
100%
anything,
agree.
It's counterproductive because it made people like me not want to get it even more.
It makes
Right?
it seem like
Sure.
you're
So,
pushing it on somebody
Why are you pushing
for a
it so
different
hard?
reason. Yeah,
But
Right?
that's just a bad marketing decision. On
I
their
agree
part.
with that.
Yeah.
It is.
But
It
yes,
was-
I also hate that commercial.
You know, and like in Ohio, $1 million lottery to get a vaccine. Why are you like, why? And you can't tell me that they're concerned about public safety to the full and utter truth, because if they were so concerned about public safety, people wouldn't pay out the ass for fucking insulin.
Right. And,
Right?
and
So there are legitimate arguments that can be made saying, what is going on that they're pushing this so hard?
No,
It's
I
not
agree
only
with
for
that.
our health.
But what
Like,
is
and
going
I
on
got
with all the
vaccine- I
medications
got
they're pushing that
vaccinated,
way?
So it is what it is. But
Okay, I want to take one of the last comments on this before we go on to something else I want to discuss before we close out the show. Al says 10 years ago, I don't like that word, so I'm just going to 10 years ago, the media ran with a story that causes that vaccines cause autism, which was proven to be false. Yet a lot of Hollywood stars ran with it, and now those same people are telling us vaccines are safe. Sorry, I don't autism. Oh well. Okay, and the reason I left out your liberal word is because 10 years ago, the media ran with that story.
yeah,
Okay.
it definitely wasn't liberal media.
no, 10 years
Yeah.
ago, there was not a divided media.
Not the same way it is
No.
now. They found a niche to get into that made them more popular with certain sides at that point. That is why it is what it is today. The media, I still say the media kind of gets a bad rap a lot of times. If you're watching any kind of media station to start with that tells you another media is not telling you the true story, you're watching the one that's not telling you the full story. They're doing that to discredit, to get more viewers, to get paid. It's all about money. If we discredit them enough, they'll watch us. You want stations or newspapers or articles like that that are not ditching other media, just like everybody on this panel was saying, you want the facts. Instead, people are hitting you with so much negativity, you're trying to turn to who you now believe is truthful based on the images you see, the money you could win, and all this stuff that tricks the brain into thinking all this is good, they're telling me what's bad. They literally can show you two couples walking on a beach in a beautiful sunset and tell you how their medication, in a loud voice, watching this image, can cause heart disease, stroke, death, and all this other terrible stuff, but you're looking at this picture and your mind plays a trick. Same thing the media does.
Oh yeah.
They don't
And it's-
tell you the facts, they tell you the other people are wrong.
And that's more than the media in today's day. Like, you have a conversation with somebody, instead of trying to tell you why they're right, they'll just tell you you're wrong and deflect. And
But people
like,
make mistakes.
yes.
Media makes mistakes. Everybody
it's-
does.
And it's been brewing up with, first with the measles shots and with the polio vaccines and all those things. You've had a lot of these different groups in the Southwest and things like that. The anti-vaxxers sort of found a voice through social media. with those references from that doctor who came out and said, yeah, no, that was not correct. That was one study. We did a study later and found that none of that actually applied, autism was not a cause.
And Al, you don't know they aren't making a mistake now. But people are spreading the word as fact that it's wrong.
Hmm.
That's the problem. In the future, we could find out there was a mistake. That's true. But everybody else is spreading a word that they're saying they know it's a mistake when they don't. And they're calling it a lie, not a possibility.
None of us can see the future.
Right.
I don't
That's-
know if my burrito from
Wait,
Taco Bell
I know.
is.
I know.
I'm asking that question if I'm making a mistake now.
Oh,
You know,
every time I eat White Castle, I'm
right?
debating
Am I
if
making a
it's gonna be
mistake now? Right.
What were you saying, Bill?
He
I said
tell
I can see the future.
Yeah, well, you can. You can.
I
So
can.
we got to pay attention to Bill.
What
Bill
drugs
knows
are
the
you
outcome.
on, and where can I get those?
Right?
I am on
right?
Norco.
That
I got
explains
hit by a car.
everything.
You know, there's a big difference now, just hitting on the media thing, with making a mistake than there used to be. People say that the newspapers used to lie, the magazines used to lie, which was our source of media for a long time, and even the local news before we had the big cable news stations. But if you made a mistake, there was full page redactions on your mistake. They
how many
owned
people-
up to that.
How
They,
many
but-
people read the National Enquirer and said, "Oh my gosh, we have aliens"?
right, right.
Well, now we didn't they come out and tell us there are aliens?
Hmm?
Didn't the government say there are
Not
aliens?
really.
There have been
No.
some Air Force pilots who have said that they've seen aliens. So
But
Yeah.
that was a difference back then. If you were an actual journalist back then and you made a mistake, the company you work for, the media company, whether it was the newspaper, whether it was the news station, you did a whole segment retracting or redacting what you said to apologize to the world for your error.
Yeah,
That
now
does
it's a
not
sentence-
exist anymore.
Sentence or a paragraph.
It's
like
it's
that.
ignored in most of these.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
But the FCC also had totalitarian control over everything that was released. You had 4 newspapers owned by, by the majority of like 2 people, and that was propaganda. It was propaganda for everyone, and everyone in return got on the same page because you didn't have massive opinions. You didn't have
Right.
different threads and things like that. You just had one statement from the police officer or from, something like that, and that was it, So because of that, you were able to
But there was a lot more trust because a lot more
manipulate
stuff in
easier
there
back then.
was more true than what you see in media now. Now it's about getting popular opinion. Like, you could rely on a lot of articles you saw in a newspaper. You
Plus,
could rely on what was on your local news.
But integrity is not a concern anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. They can say.
you could believe it up until Tommy became.
Hi, Mary.
mayor.
Yes,
So,
we do.
Hi,
A few of
Mary.
us do. Deep conversation, it happens. Like,
I
doing
normally
Mary.
don't smoke, but
see it.
having conversations like this, you got to.
Yeah, it kind of builds up a little bit on there. Okay, so let's move a little bit on because we spent a lot of time.
We spent the
That's it.
whole damn show.
I know.
Yeah.
Mary also says it's not good for you. Yeah, well,
Agreed.
neither is
Well,
the show.
physically, yes. Mentally, debatable.
It helps us tolerate each other sometimes. But yeah, we all do things that aren't good for us sometimes, and we're okay with it. Just not the government tells us it is.
Exactly.
Yep. I was like, we're
But
okay with it.
this is one thing I'd be all right if they got rid of.
Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
for.
If I can't buy a cigarette, I'll be fine.
Okay, so I want to hit on the one final thing, and I wanted to actually start with this, but we kind of rolled into it. Today is September 12th, and yesterday was the 20th anniversary of the attack on America through that. So obviously, it was a huge day. Do you think that day has as much merit as it once did? I didn't see the kind of reaction for 20 years. I did not see the kind of reactions that I've seen for the last 19.
I think this year was kind of fucked in that regards. with the current climate in Afghanistan and everything that's happened recently. So there are a lot of people that are either very angry or don't really know how to feel about it and kind of don't want to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be part of the reason why it wasn't as big of a deal as in the past.
But it's
Stan,
also
my
20.
man, yes.
You know,
Smoke him
Fuck
if
yeah,
we got
Stan.
him. Yes, Stan. We got him.
it's also 20 years. You know, so I mean that's someone inflecting. You know, like Pearl Harbor to me. You know, at that point, it's like I'll never sort of. You know, to a lot of people on the planet, they're never going to
People who are 30 years
understand
old right now were only, 20,
the
or sorry,
impact
10 years
of
old
something.
when this happened.
something. Yeah, I was at work
I was,
when
That's
that
the other thing,
happened.
I was
So
in
let
a
me-
typing class.
So let me tell you my story real quick because it was an interesting day, right? So I was listening to Drew and Mike, and I was coming through, about to set off to drive out to West Bloomfield to do my route, right? So I go home just for a second, and my buddy calls me on the phone. He's like, "Hey, the world's burning." I'm like, "What?" And I turn on the television, and it's the bluest sky I've ever seen in my life. And I've
It's a
seen
beautiful
other
day.
right, and I've seen other people sort of say that thing. It seemed such a clear picture. And I see the tower smoking. So I'm calling around. All of a sudden, we see the other plane go in. All this other stuff. So it's like, what the fuck do I do? Everything's going to a standstill. They're stopping flights, So for me, I called my work. I'm like, what are we doing here? Are we still working? It's like, yeah, as far as we know, we're still working. So throughout the day, I went to multiple
Really
people's
quick, for
houses.
1 second,
Sure.
before you continue, anybody in the chat, please feel free to tell us what 9/11 meant to you over the last, yesterday pretty much for 20 years and how it's impacted you and how do you still feel about it today. Continue, Gabriel.
So my first job was a woman who had no cable and no phone, no cell phones, because back then they didn't have the video phones or anything like that. So I did the install for her. I got the television working, and in that instance, I saw her reaction to the first thing that she saw. And it was a strange feeling. So, and then I went to the next house. It was a family of I don't know if it was an Arab community or Saudi Arabians or something like that. Everybody was speaking in a foreign language, and I was sort of thrown off, because I didn't understand what was happening and stuff like that. So everybody's running past me, going back. I'm supposed to do this service call there, and I can't understand anybody. I'm like, what's happening? Can I help you? What's going on with me trying to get them fixed? And one of them that can speak English tells me that their either daughter or son was in the tower,
Oh, wow.
and they can't get a hold of them. Right? So that was another job. So I just sort of finished up. And, as the day went on, I was just drained. And by the end of it, I'm like, I'm not going to be doing much here for you today. And nobody expected much at that point.
Right.
But those types of situations, it was just, bizarre to sort of
It was
witness
really scary.
other families firsthand, from a witness perspective,
Do you remember, does everybody, what were you doing that day? Anybody out there, what were you doing on that day when it happened? Like, how did you find out, Bill?
My typing class.
I was
Because
not
we
in
had
typing.
that back then.
You were doing what, Bill?
I said I wasn't in typing class. I actually, and I know it may sound bad, I don't remember what I was doing.
No.
And if that being said, I was probably working because I believe that I didn't find, because I was working a night job part of the time then. So I believe that I probably found out the next morning.
What about you, Anthony? You said you were in typing class. Like, did they come
Yeah.
tell you, or did you have a
The
TV
teacher
on?
had the TV on, And so I'm, watching the news and I see,
Oh, that's a good
What's
typing
happening?
class. I'm watching TV.
yeah,
Right?
and so we're all just watching the news, and we all kind of stop and we're looking, and my first thought was, wow, this looks like a cool movie, right? I'm 12 years old. I'm not gonna, I
Yeah.
don't fully understand any of it.
Right.
And then got into the next class, and my mom pulled me out of school. We went home. My aunt was working at the Renaissance Center, so they all evacuated because that was thought to be another target at the time. And so we were just kind of sitting around at the house watching the news, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? Right? Not knowing, not having a full grasp of anything. And it was just a very strange day.
It was. I think I went through one of the biggest emotional changes watching it, because when I first saw it, I mean, you can call it a little heartless. I was in my 20s, actually. I wasn't 12. And I first saw the first plane. I was up for some reason watching the news. It's amazing how many people were some reason watching the news that morning, like when they saw it, and saw the first plane. And honestly, I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, I've never seen a plane go into a building before. It's kind of like watching a car accident. People are hurt, but
Yeah.
it was, or a tanker explodes. It was cool.
It's a train wreck.
And yeah, and I'm like, didn't feel a lot of remorse. I was not even comprehending buildings could be occupied or anything. It was just kind of cool. The minute I saw that second plane hit, watching the same broadcast,
Right.
I went into full terror.
Right, because then at that point, up until that point, you figure it might be an accident, some sort of tragedy. But isn't it funny how your mind will justify sort of the appeal of a train wreck
Yeah.
versus a terrorist attack,
Yeah.
And then it instantly turns into, oh shit, the world is burning.
It changed the way I view accidents, and I do believe that had a lot to do with it. Because I went from that's cool to, oh my God. And now
And
when
that was the biggest thing for the newer generation, because what we went through before in years back when JFK was assassinated,
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing, the biggest, like, I don't know how to say it politely, like the anniversary. I mean, that went on for 30 years. So many people visited where he was buried and everything like that, and laying out flowers and stuff like that. And people were messed up for years
Yeah.
because of it.
I mean, I was really shocked because I was flipping TV stations, watching different news, even local or anything. There was not a lot about it yesterday. I was so surprised on that I saw. There was a few things I saw, but there wasn't a lot. Like, I've seen so much more. Facebook was even empty with a lot of that. Like, every
Right.
year, I recall constantly my feed was flooded with that stuff.
I think a lot of that too, it's like just talking about Afghanistan and 9/11 is a very controversial topic right now, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really talk about it without bringing up what's currently happening and having that, I guess, argument between sides. So that might have been why you didn't see a lot of it in the news and that, because they didn't really want to bring attention to the shitstorm that's going on.
Do you think that lately they've been using it for the wrong reasons? 9/11 to hit, like, using the border routine, using the Afghanistan thing, and fearing that that's all going to happen over again. Do you think they're using it this time? Because that's what I'm seeing a lot of. Like, it's going to be 9/11 all over again. It's going to be worse, which, strike me down for saying it, I don't mean it badly. 9/11 was kind of touted for a while as kind of, they didn't win.
Right.
They didn't do what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
It was
well,
a
and
loss.
That was the first time in a while that, and probably ever since, that this country united as
Yeah.
a
Right.
fucking country, right? Where both sides said, you know what, fuck this. Like, we need to get together. We're all one people, and
But I also think that after a certain amount of years, it becomes a New York thing, right? So
That's, yeah.
think about like Hurricane Katrina, right? And what a tragedy that must be for the people that experienced it. But because the rest of the country is sort of watching it on television, much like all of the deaths happening on COVID. There's that disconnect. It's not necessarily apathy, but it's the failure to put yourself wholly into that
Well,
emotional
what Bill said
connection.
about JFK was a good point. I mean,
Right.
most of us were never alive. We see it as an event that happened. And I mean, I was younger. I searched for videos to see it, you know, like morbid curiosity, honestly. It never had the impact. I'll never know what it was until 9/11 to see something in that moment, or the Space Shuttle Challenger.
Right, yeah.
You know, another event that was 7 people that most people look back, so 7 people died. It was a boom boom because they don't know the impact on it. And we, thankfully, we haven't had something since, but it's just amazing that it was 20 years ago
Yeah.
that this happened. It seems like yesterday. Al says he was at work. They brought us in the cafeteria because there was a TV there. There, I saw the second plane hit. We all had the option to go, which everyone did and spent the day watching on TV. I think and believe the reason why it wasn't so hyped this year is because of COVID, for one, and just 9/11 exhaustion. Every year for 20 years, it's on TV relentlessly. But why quit at year 20? And we all know what happened that day. It was a horrible day in our history. It also generational too.
Right.
And it is generational. I don't think people realize the impact. But my thing was just, why are you quitting at 20? Quit at 21.
Yeah. Do something for the 20th anniversary.
I mean, I saw
You know.
plenty of things on my thread, so maybe it was just your thread that you.
Maybe it was mine. I just don't have
Yeah.
the same friend count.
I saw. No, you got way more. I got like
You're not
three.
as popular as Gabe.
I just have 3 friends that are
He
very
got 3.
patriotic.
He's got
so,
13,000.
I mean, I did see some things. I just didn't see it like before. And I almost, like I said, I was wondering, first of all, have we hit the threshold of being desensitized to it? To that event particularly. And I
well,
think
there's
we
so
might
much.
have.
There's so much tragedy on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis that it becomes white noise, right? There is bad news every single day of our lives in multiple threads at multiple moments of every single day. And how do we gauge the importance of every single bad thing that we hear every day? It's too much.
And well, the thing that gets weird about that is I agree what you're saying, and what Al says. 20 years, is a long time. A lot of people weren't born yet or have died since then. People go ape shit over fucking like Veterans Day, or not Veterans Day, the Pearl Harbor shit that happened. Most of them are died. I don't see it as much anymore, but even Titanic, a natural tragedy, in a sense, not somebody attacking somebody else. Those
Depending on
get
who you
more
talk to.
attention.
Right. I mean, they did kill Leonardo.
That's true. That's true. That no, they didn't. Kate Winslet did.
All right.
Plenty of room on that
There
fucking
was
board.
plenty of fucking room.
That door would have floated. That door would have floated. I know.
No, I do think it was a tragedy. I do think we've crossed that threshold, just like Al was saying, that we're kind of desensitized to it now. It's in our past. We're moving forward.
Or it's when it just turns into history as opposed to.
But I really hope people look at that and look at everything that happens, no matter how severe, how tragic, how crazy it may seem. You may think the end of the world's coming, and for a moment, so did I. I thought we were going headfirst into World War III.
For sure.
It will become a page in history. So many things have happened in the last 20 years. Technology has come so far. Presidents have come and gone. Sides have been decided, or sides have been formed and left. Opinions have been changed. Mandates have come and mandates have gone. Everything will be a page in history if you just focus on the future. And we forget to do that. The whole time Mr.
But you
Trump
don't
was
learn
in.
history in school anymore.
You know what?
you
The
do.
interesting thing is kind of cancel culture, in a sense, started with that and the towers. They started pulling any scenes from it. They started pulling what movie was coming out that year. I think they pulled and delayed to edit out the towers. It was
As far as like the people jumping.
no, well, no, they like wouldn't
To
show
show
on
the skyline
TV.
without the towers.
They would not allow the towers to be shown, and that's so that cancel culture even started a long time before all this shit, to a point. Now back then we didn't have as much power. Some of us disagreed with it and stuff. They changed skyline scenes and openings of shows. movie. I can't remember what movie it was. There was a really big blockbuster coming out, and they had to delay it because it featured the two towers.
Oh yeah, I can't.
Was it
Yeah,
that?
Yeah,
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about. Though.
yeah, because the images in there it wasn't Spider-Man, was it?
I don't know.
I don't remember when
couldn't tell you
the
for
first
sure.
Raimi one was, but either way, I think people have to look at what we said. It's going to become history, no matter how hard it seems. You're going to get through it. The future holds a lot. 20 years held a lot of things we would never have seen if we focused on that one day. And 20 years in the future is going to hold a lot of things, and all this division and all these vaccines and all this virus stuff is going to become a page in history. There is so much more to look forward to in this world if
was
we let it
Spider-Man.
happen.
So
It
the
was
question is,
Spider-Man.
will we
It was, yeah.
memorialize the people lost from COVID in the same way? Will it be held in the regard of the 3,000 lives lost, or not as much because of the fact
Also, the professional was one.
that it's millions more?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be different with COVID because COVID, I don't think is an attack on the country from another country.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a little different. I think it's going to be remembered
As
like
far
the
as
Black
we know.
Plague.
As far as we know, so
Yeah.
So why is there less empathy for a virus that kills people versus a plane? And is it more a higher number means less? And a 3,000 is more intimate, so it impacts more people?
I think the fact that
Who was
an
it that
attack
said-
on a country that made it more impactful?
I mean, who was it that said that the death of one person is a tragedy?
Stalin. The
the
death
death-
of one person
Yeah.
is a tragedy. The death of a million is a
It's
statistic.
statistic. And I think the more we get used to it and the more people die regularly and the more we see it in our faces, we are desensitized to it. But those of us who've experienced things like that, and those of us who still will, because you're going to hit several shocks in your life, need to remember the future will happen. Life will go on, and you know who's going to be there are your friends and family. The people by your side, hopefully. You know, if all goes well. Those are the ones you don't want to get rid of. Those are the ones you don't want to ignore. You don't want to push away. Because they're still going to
still want
be
to get
there.
rid of my sister.
Okay, well, aside from Bill's sister. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No.
And Doc Brown. Doc Brown will be in the future as well.
Oh my God, I just watched Star Trek 2 the other day and I didn't even realize Christopher Lloyd was in it. I'm like, looking, who's
Was he?
that fucking Klingon? Yeah, he was the head Klingon.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I know that person. I'm like,
With the eye patch?
yeah. No, the Undiscovered Country was the eye patch. That was Christopher Plummer.
Okay, yeah.
Al says, when you kill a man, you're a murderer. Kill many, you're a conqueror. Kill them all, you're a god. Megadeth. Amazing, some good quotes come from some of these 80s metal bands.
Hell yeah.
I agree.
Hello,
and that's
me.
actually true.
It's the real me.
That's real true. Well,
Great album.
it is. I appreciate this show, and of course, hearts to anybody who was ever. My heart goes out to anybody who was affected by the tragedy of 9/11 because they're still living day to day with things they may have lost, people they have. I remember we were talking about work. Taco Bell I worked at the time. They made us work. I actually staged a full walkout and we just left because my manager, she didn't want to leave because she was strictly by the books corporate. At the time, I was only shift manager. I said go, and she's like, I won't. I said, well, you can't run the store if we all do,
Like,
and we did.
people
that.
don't want tacos right now.
Right.
It's 9/11.
And we were dead. Nobody was moving because everybody was glued to their TV.
Right, yeah.
That was it.
It's a weird day.
Yep. All right. I want to thank everybody, of course, for being here. This was good. This was nice. This was nice and detailed and deep and a whole bunch of other crap. That's what we do. We never know. Thank everybody in the chat, of course, for all your comments. Again, we don't exist without you. You are a huge part of this show. Don't forget, while you're here, to like, share, subscribe, and follow to Ear Shoulder Voice on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Always, you can chat live during all our shows using Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. And you can also call in simply by going to earshouldervoice.join. But don't forget, we're not just here for that. you can talk to us anytime. Go to our Facebook page and message us, and we'll be glad to talk to you about anything. If you want to go to our actual website page, feel free to do that at earshouldervoice.com, and you can message us anonymously if you wish to, or you can join into the social network that it is to help other people by people who like to help others. That's what we're for. Coming up on our next topic, of course, is the Classic Gamer. This is ode to Gabe. Gabe is, he's one of our favorite Classic Gamers. This is going to be his birthday show, but I kind of fucked up the whole schedule, like I said, with Labor Day, so that has been pushed to this Wednesday. And this is going to be a really lighthearted, fun show. We're just going to talk about video games, classic video games, how they're so much better than the shit they put out today, and all that. Not that we're biased or anything, but the impact they had on us too and what we did in comparisons to today. Gabe's got a lot of knowledge on that, as well as several other people, so we're looking forward to that. Other than that, thank you, Bill, Anthony, Gabe, all of you, and Al. Thank you, Al. Take your bow. You're like going to become our new Bill, since Bill's now on the show. I was like, it's on there. Thank you, everybody in the chat. And thank you, Stan, of course, for sticking us for us smokers. We appreciate that. All right. You guys have a great night. Thank you again for being here. Return every Sunday and Wednesday, pretty much, for a new episode of Ear Shoulder Voice. We love you, and have a great, great night.
Have a good night.
I don't know if I did. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Okay. Oh, well. This might be an old credit scene. Hey guys, Keith Lippin here for Ear Shoulder Voice. While you're here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow so you can be notified of all our upcoming broadcasts that we'll be bringing to you live every week. Or head on over to our brand new social network and website, earshouldervoice.com, where you can be notified of all our show schedules, suggest new topics, join others like you in a judgment-free zone, or be a guest panelist yourself. I feel so teary-eyed thinking about that 9/11 stuff. It actually just took me back there for a minute.
Yeah, it was strange. I remember when the tower fell, I remember I was driving onto 75 North, right at 9 Mile, right at John R. and 9 Mile, the one going northbound. Mm-hmm. I remember that exactly. So
I, for some reason, chose to call my friend who worked with me, also a shift manager at Taco Bell, and just tell her we're under attack. I don't know why I picked her, why I called her. We hung out a lot, and we were good friends, and that's probably why. And then I went over to her house, and we sat and talked and watched for a minute before work. Nobody else was home. I don't even remember anything to do with my mom at that point, which is weird, and I lived with her at that time. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she was at work or I talked to her. I don't remember a lot of that. I just remember I don't know, I wasn't thinking in the right way. I think because I wanted somebody to talk to I could go to.
Right, because you didn't want to, though. Right? You wanted to just focus on the news, find out what the hell was going on. I ended up listening to the radio show because they ended up they stayed on the air till 5 o'clock.
So, Anthony, how old would you have been then? What were you?
12. He was 12.
12. Did it have the same impact at that age, really? Or was it really just kind of the cool thing? Not cool, but you know what I mean.
It wasn't cool after I realized the severity of it, because everyone,
real,
my mom, my dad, my aunt, and uncle, they all came home from work early, and I was just like, all right, so this isn't good.
Right.
But I didn't really have a full grasp of the severity of what happened.
Right.
Of a terrorist attack. Right. How does a 12-year-old process a terrorist attack?
Well, I kind of wondered about that because I was only probably around 10 years old when the shuttle exploded.
Yeah.
And it did have a huge impact on me.
But at the same time, we were introduced to her, and that through a school program So we had heard all of that stuff, and they prepped her as being. It was all about scholastics, you know. So
But I didn't know anything about her.
right, but you knew about her before she went up, you know.
I don't recall knowing that. It's possible I did, but I don't recall that. I remember I was really into astronomy, though.
So
and I
when
wanted
you
to go, and that probably had something to do with it, too.
So what impacted you more, the actual shuttle
The
blow up,
loss of the life.
or the Punky Brewster episode? About,
Later, it was Punky.
Right.
Okay? Later, it was Punky.
So what
it took me
impacted
right
you
back.
more? Yeah.
Actually,
You were
Punky
looking
because
at
it
her
brought me
boat.
back as well as to see her reaction on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Soleil was awesome in that show when she did that.
I think they got that in there pretty quick.
I
'Cause
think it was like, yeah, within days.
I think they filmed it, yeah, and got that out there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, but it hit me hard. I kind of was like Punky when I got home, too. It had hit me so hard. But I was really, really into space and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that way when 9/11 happened at first. That part didn't click. It wasn't about loss of life or anything like that. I was just curious. Like I said, it hit me, but it hit me differently. To me, I think the biggest impact was probably the Challenger, even more than 9/11 when it did. It's also, I think, for me at that age, it was one of the first real times I saw live people die.
Mm-hmm.
And realize not everything's a perfect world.
Yeah, right. Not all things are happy endings. Sure.
Yeah. But this show is. Usually
Yeah, it is.
Don't forget, if you come onto our shows in the future, please have your vaccine. We need proof of that, as well as if you don't want to do that, please show us you've been tested before getting on the show. It's going to be very important for us to do.
Well, looks like I'm not going to be on the show anymore.
But don't come on our shows, okay?
Well, depending if it's a sex
Hey,
show,
hey.
Bill might.
Next show's coming up.
I was just going to say, if it's a sex show, Bill might come on our show. It is.
There goes the PG rating.
Every sex show. Well, it might not, because last time we didn't really have the outcome we hoped for it when we did one of those.